Hi, we're back again. Now, this armrest came off 1982 Porsche. Came off the seat, okay? This is on the left side, alright? Now this thing's 30 years old. Now if you look in here, this is one complicated puppy here, alright? What they actually did, they put the arm, the bar that goes in here, they put that bar in the whole seat inside of a mold. And this is pretty much what the mold looks like. Alright, they put this in. Alright, so what they did is when they had this bar in that mold, they poured in the foam rubber, and the foam rubber actually molded itself around that bar. Okay? If you were to open this up, you'd see there's a big groove in here, like a big hoop. That's where the steel reinforcement bar goes in. Now, so this is going to be a rough puppy to duplicate. Now it can be done, don't get me wrong, but if you can save it, you save it. Alright, now what happened was, you see right up on top here, there's a slit right here. That's where the foam broke down because of the steel bar that's underneath. I'd say, well, even though we got almost 2 inches above that steel bar, it still broke down. That's because the left arm was always laying on top of this armrest, and normally people drive with the right hand. Alright, now I glued it back together. This was split all the way down. I sprayed glue in there and I pushed it together and I held it. Then I wrapped some tape around it. I let it dry, okay? So it's glued back together, except we have a low point here where the foam actually compressed from the arm being on it so much. So we have to fix that. Now this is the worst piece of foam on the whole seat. This mostly because the arm was laying on it the whole time. The rest of the foam is pretty much salvageable. All we have to do is just put either a half-inch foam on it, glue it on top, or get a 1/4-inch Dacron polyfill. That's what I'm going to do on this piece when I get done with it, and put it around here to give it that nice soft little touch. Because if you touch this now, you know, there's not that much give. It's going to feel too stiff. Alright, you need something with a little bit of give to it. Alright? So, now you're probably asking how you're going to fix this. Well, you have to get a really dense foam, at least as dense as this. Alright, now I have this foam here. This is very dense foam. It actually, I might even use this. Alright, but the thing is, you would have to cut an arc on the top, or you'd have to file this, and that would be pretty difficult. And this foam has been sitting up in my attic for maybe 10 years. I'm kind of hesitant to use it because I'm pushing on it now, and I'm feeling that it almost seems like the center is a little more dense than the outside. That's not good. That's not good. You should have the same density throughout the whole foam. So now how are we going to fix this? Well, I was walking through this kid's store the other day. Found this thing called a noodle. And it is just about the same width as the top of this cushion. Now this is plastic foam. Alright? This is nice stuff. Alright? Now, I not only was going to use it to fix this seat, I have a square center console that I have, and it looks like a big block. Right? That's square. What do you expect? So I want to bring that center console up into the 20th century. And so I was thinking of splitting this down the center, again, on my bandsaw, and putting it on the edges all the way around. Right? Because it's not that thick. And this way my edges, the edges are probably almost as wide as this is in diameter. Okay? So if I put this on, the edges are going to look real round. That's going to look pretty good, man. Better than a big block square thing. Then I could put the vinyl over that. Alright? So, now if I cut a piece, say maybe 9 inches long, I slice this down to whatever measurement this is. Now she's sunk. She's sunk right down to here and to here. Okay? Down about a ½ inch. But we're going to go right to the edge. Alright, we're going to take it from this point to this point. And we're going to take a measurement of that. And that's how much we're going to slice this thing down. Now, I didn't take apart the other seat, the passenger seat. This is the driver's seat. But I really doubt if that's going to be anything like this. Because usually, it's the driver's seat that goes. Let's face it, you're always in the driver's seat more than the passenger seat. So what we're going to do here, like I said, we're just going to split this right down the center. We're going to mark it first, so we have a guideline to go by. And then we're going to glue it on here. Now, the hard part, the only real hard part I see about this is we don't want to go too crazy with this. I mean, we have about ½ inch clearance on our cover. If you put this cover on, what happens is you can pull this leather up almost a ½ inch over this. Then just by looking at this, I can tell that there's a ½ inch. Okay? So that means that on here, the most we could go would be 3/4 of an inch thick at the center. So we're going to have to mark this down 3/4 of an inch and put a line here. Alright? Then we're going to have to cut that off all the way down, say like 9 inches, whatever this measurement was up on the top. Then we're going to glue it to here. Then, if we're real lucky, we can get ourselves a body file, a sanding board that you sand down the plastic with, with about maybe, we could start with like 36 grit, open coat, and we should be able to sand it with that. And then when we get a nice round curve, just like is up on here, and a nice curve on the back, we're going to be in Fat City. We just glue that sucker right on, and we should be good to go. Alright? To do this from scratch would be rough. The first thing you'd have to do, you have to figure out the width. Now you see the width, now this gets tricky here, because this is narrower on the bottom than it is up on the top. Alright, so the first thing you're going to have to do is get a piece of foam, I'd say maybe 1 inch thick. Then you're going to have to put it inside of that bar. It's like a miniature roll bar. It's going to have to go right in there. Alright, then you're going to have to get another piece of like 1 inch foam or ½ inch foam, glue that on the outside, and then glue the other one on the outside. Now it gets real tricky because we have to taper it up. Alright? And if you don't have a regular foam cutting machine, you're not going to be able to cut that angle. You're going to have to call a foam company and have those pieces custom made, right? Because you need them on an angle. They'll cut it to any angle you want, but you're going to have one angle for one side and the other angle for the other side to bring it up like this. Then you're going to have to go ahead and get another piece of foam to fit right in between here and bring it all the way down. You see, I told you it wasn't going to be easy. That's why I'm doing this repair. It can be done. There's going to be a lot of work and a lot of figuring. But sometimes, you know, you have no choice. If I was to get my finger and stick it and go right through this foam, I would have no choice. I have to do the whole thing. Alright? This foam, true, is breaking down a little bit where the arm went. But like I said, once I put this cap on, it'd be like putting a cap on a tooth. It's going to be good as new. Now, the only thing you got to figure out here, now don't forget, you're going to cut this on the bandsaw, it's going to come out flat, alright? And you have a 1/2 inch dip here. So, if you want to get up like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch with this, you got to figure the bottom part is going to go in here and sink down a 1/2 inch. So you got it, your clearance that was up on here, now if it was a 1/2 inch, it's going to be to 1 inch. Alright? And what's going to happen too is the sides are going to come up on you because this is a curve. So not only are you going to have to sand the front and the back, you're going to have to sand the sides down because they're going to be pushed up. You follow what I'm saying? It's like if you had a person laying in here. Well, what happened? Their body would go in the center, and then their arms would be up like this. They'd be buried in the valley. The foam is going to do the same thing. And if you don't make it so it fits right in here, the thing is never going to fit right. Okay? I was going to say maybe you could sand that somehow to make a belly in it, but that would be really rough. What might be a better way to do this is to get some closed cell foam. Alright? Cut a piece about maybe 1 inch thick and glue it in here. Glue it right in here, 1 inch thick, 1 inch wide I mean. Alright? We're going to put this on in layers like a layer cake. And then we get one about maybe 1.5 inches wide. And we put it on that. Then you get one like 2 inches wide. Then you put it on that. Until we make this thing perfectly flat. Then when we get this perfectly flat, then we can go ahead and put on our noodle. That's what this is called, a noodle. You get this at dollar stores for like $1. During the summer only. Because they get rid of it when it gets cold. Believe me, I was looking for one. So, I think that's our best deal. We're going to try it like that. Now, I have a little bit of stuff sticking up here. Like a little mohawk. We're going to have to trim that down with a razor. Because our foam won't even lay flat on that. Okay? So, we'll come back in a second. I'm going to cut up those strips. And then I'm going to trim this off a little bit with a razor. And we're going to see how she's looking. I'll lay it up right in front of your face so you can check it out. I got my first piece cut and put on here. About the size of a tongue depressor, I guess. You don't want to have square corners on this. Alright? It just doesn't look natural. Now, I made another piece, like a bigger tongue depressor. And that's going to go on here like this. I'm going to glue that on. See, here it's flat. I can feel that. And this isn't bad. I think we can get by with this. This way, when we cut the noodle on a bandsaw, we're going to have a completely flat bottom. And it should go on here and sit pretty good without sinking into that valley. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece on now. And let's see where that takes us. Now you can see this red mark I have over here. I'm down about 3/4 of an inch. We're going to better to have a little more, a little less sometimes, if you know what I mean. And then I have a line drawn over here. And if I need to, I will have to cut this off right here too. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here to my wood cutting bandsaw and cut this, and let's see what happens. There we have it. A little big. This is about an inch big. Let's try it out.
Of course I do.
Now, we made this thing way too high, and it's way too curved. So, we're going to have to trim this down so it's about a 1/2 inch high. So we're going to have to take this hump off here, okay? We're going to cut this again on the bandsaw, right across here. But we're going to mark a 1/2 inch all the way down here first to give us some kind of guideline. Okay, I got my 1/2 inch here. We have the right length. Now all we have to do is file or sand down the edges to make this round, and all the way around. We have to make it like a miniature snow cone here to match the curve that's on this seat. Okay, now you might be able to actually do this on a big stone grinding wheel. Might be the easiest way to go, or we're going to try some sandpaper first, I think, and see how this stuff actually sands. Now here's this little plastic foam pad that I sanded down with my 36 grit paper. You got to be very careful. You don't want to go down over 1/8 of an inch, because once you get down to like 1/8 of an inch or something, you've got a good chance you're going to rip it. Then you might as well throw the whole thing away and start over again. So it will leave it like almost like a Turkish towel up here, you see. But that's all right, no problem. So, we have our piece with our Band-Aid patch on here. Now this is really stiff stuff, but it's still a little soft. That's great, it's nice and firm. So we're going to glue this on top of here like this. Then after we glue it, remember I told you this stuff was still a little firm on the outside? What we're going to get is 1/4 inch Dacron polyfill bonded. So we have this on here. Then we're just going to lay this right up against the edge of it like this. And we're going to like put glue around it. And we're going to cover this whole piece with Dacron polyfill. Because like I said, the give isn't here because the foam is a little old. Alright? And if we put this Dacron polyfill on here, it's going to make it feel like it's brand new, even though it isn't. And it's the same height as our piece of material here. So when we go over this, if we glue it on right, butt it up right next close to it, you'll never even know this patch was there. Alright? And it will have a nice feel to it when you cover it. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting up my foam. Not my foam, my Dacron polyfill. Glue this thing on. And, you know, this is like, you know, from this point on, it's like you can get some little kid to come in here that can work with one of those little tiny round scissors, you know. He could finish this thing off for it. Give it to the little kid. Here, just cut the stuff around. Or what you could do too, you know, you could actually place this thing on a piece of the Dacron polyfill and trace out the opening. You know, like cut a hole in it. So this thing will just come right through. So when this thing is on here, you can get the Dacron polyfill and just put it over here and it'll just wrap right around. Right? Of course you won't be able to do it in the front because you're going to have a dart in the front. Alright? No. But you still could do it. You could just, you know, glue it together, have the dart, and just get a scissor and snip it right up so it's flush with the surface. And you'll be good to go. Then this thing will go back on. Now I'm going to do this. There's 4 wings. There's 2 on each side. There's one on each side of your hips, and there's one on each side of your shoulder. Alright? And this is the only one that was really broken. But still, the other ones I'm going to have to rejuvenate by putting on a Dacron polyfill 1/4 inch, which you can get on a roll. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this thing up. Then for the sake of not wasting a lot of time, just showing you how to do simple stuff. When I getting into any kind of a little problem I think is difficult, I'm going to show you how to fix it. Now I found one more little problem here. Right up on the top, I had a slight depression right in the center. So I added on a little bit more foam. Alright. Now I still might have to trim this edge here just a little bit with a razor to get it, because I only want it to go fill in the center here. You got to be careful now when you do a job like this, because sometimes there is a really weak spot right in the center like I ran into. You have to make sure you fill that up. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim down the edges a little bit, because don't forget the deep spot is in the center, which is filled. So with a regular straight edge razor, I'm just going to trim down the sides a little bit and see if I can get this thing level. Now that seems to have done it. So I got my Dacron polyfill, and I traced I put my piece on top of Decomposing polyfill and I traced it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and glue it down. Okay. Now, you might want to keep some mineral spirits around, low odor, preferably, and a rag to get the glue off your fingers. Alright? And take it off real good. Now, let me show you this one thing I just did here. Now, I had this Decomposing polyfill, you know, hanging straight over the edge. And so what I did, I got a scissor, and I cut it up right to where she comes around, the foam comes around. I just relieved it there, and I relieved it here. And then I glued this piece down with my two fingers like this, because in the center I had a little bit of a dart coming up here. And so I just got a scissor and I snipped it off, flush. Okay? Now, you can't even tell that I snipped it here. Now what I'm going to do on the side is just cut this flush with the front. Okay, I'm going to put a little more glue on here like so. And then I'm going to get the scissor and just trim it around like so. Follow the contour of the arm. And do the same thing to this side. Now up here you can see I had this material sticking up. All I'm going to do is get my scissor. It has to be flush. I'm going to get my scissor and just cut it flush. Like so. Now you see? Now I just have to glue this together a little bit here and it'll look like it's all one piece. Now, as far as this top goes here, I have a higher section right here. I might have to glue a little bit of Decomposing polyfill up here, or cotton wadding, you know, something loose. It comes loose like they stuffed animals with. You could put a little bit of that up here, you know, because now I have a little bit of a hump up there. And so I want to kind of, I don't want to trim this down anymore. Just want to kind of blend this in a little more, alright? And it will blend into these edges here a little bit too. Okay? Like I say, it's your choice, either cotton wadding or loose Decomposing polyfill in a bag that you get, you know, at Walmart or something. So I'm going to go ahead now and trim the rest of this stuff off. And glue it down. It's always better to cut a little less than cut a little more and have to put a little piece in to glue up your mistake. Now I still have to trim this to this side. That looks good. I'll do the same thing to the other side until I get, and then I'm going to glue a piece right in the center here. Okay, and we're getting there. I'm going to do the same thing to the back. Now you see the back, you can stick my hand in here. We're going to mark this on the outside with a magic marker, right where my finger is, right where the edge is. Okay? And then we're going to come back and we're going to trim it there. And so we're going to have a piece coming right down this front here that's just going to lay right down into that swoop or that curve. Alright? We'll just bring it right down. Okay, I'll get back to you after I cut this down and attach it to see how we're going to fill this up. Level that out. Alright? That's not a problem at all. We don't want to just put this 1/4 inch right up on the top here. We want to put something soft so it will just level this right out. And it has to be something loose, like loose Dacron polyfill or cotton wadding. Now I got a little loose cotton wadding. I put it on here and glued it on. Should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is after I make up the cover, I'll just, slide it on. Well, it looks something like this. This is the old one. I'll just slide it on, and to make sure it looks good. If not, just take it off, put a little more cotton wadding in, and put it back on until it looks nice. Fills it up nice. Well, this was the hardest one. So if you can do this one, you can do them all. I'm going to go ahead and cover the 3 other wings that I have. Cover them, Dacron polyfill. Then that should do it. Except for making the cover.